Have you ever felt unappreciated or overlooked, despite putting in your best efforts? It can be incredibly frustrating when others don't recognize your value. But what if the key to peace and fulfillment lies in how you see your own worth rather than relying on external validation? Hi, I'm from the Stoic Way channel, and today we're going to explore the Stoic response to feeling unappreciated. Whether it's at work, in relationships, or even within your family, feeling unnoticed can lead to quiet suffering. But Stoicism teaches us that true worth isn't dependent on others' recognition. Instead, our value comes from within, based on our actions, character, and the way we respond to the world around us. In today's world, it's easy to tie our sense of worth to external things, praise from others, rewards, or recognition. However, Stoicism offers a powerful alternative. Your value is determined by the person you choose to be, not by how others see you. By focusing on internal validation, we can find peace and confidence, regardless of external circumstances. In this video, we'll break down the meaning behind Marcus Aurelius' quote, "Be content to seem what you really are." We'll explore how Stoicism reframes unappreciation and teaches us to find fulfillment in our internal sense of self-worth, rather than waiting for others to acknowledge us. Before we get started, like, subscribe, and comment below on a time you felt unappreciated. How did you handle that feeling? Let's dive into how Stoicism can help us redefine our worth. Let's reflect on this insightful quote from Marcus Aurelius. Be content to seem what you really are. Marcus Aurelius, this quote speaks directly to the Stoic belief that our worth is not determined by the recognition or approval of others, but by the integrity and character we display in our actions. It's easy to get caught up in the desire for external validation, whether it's praise from our boss, acknowledgement from family, or recognition in relationships. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us that true contentment comes from being authentically ourselves, regardless of how others see us. In Stoic thought, our value is inherent in who we are and how we choose to live, not in the applause or recognition we receive from the outside world. By embracing this mindset, we free ourselves from the pain of seeking approval and start to focus on developing virtues like wisdom, courage, and self-control. This teaching is a reminder that our worth is not something that can be given to us by others, but something we cultivate within ourselves. When we act according to our values and character, we naturally feel fulfilled, regardless of how the world perceives us. We've just explored Marcus Aurelius' powerful quote, "Be content to seem what you really are." This is a crucial teaching in Stoicism, finding contentment in who we are and how we act, not in what others think of us. Let's unpack how this Stoic principle can help us when we feel unappreciated, and why it's so important in the modern world. When we feel unappreciated, whether at work, in relationships, or in our personal lives, it's natural to feel frustrated or hurt. We often tie our sense of value to how others perceive us or whether our efforts are acknowledged. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us that true peace and fulfillment come from understanding that our worth is not determined by external recognition. Instead of seeking constant validation from others, Stoicism teaches us to find value in our actions and character. What you are in your essence, your values, your virtues, and the integrity with which you live, is the source of your true worth, not the approval or acknowledgement from others. When we accept this and act in accordance with our values, we are free from the disappointment that comes when recognition is not forthcoming. Think about a situation where you felt unappreciated. Maybe it was at work, where you put in a lot of effort but were overlooked for a promotion. Or perhaps it was in a relationship where you felt like your contributions weren't acknowledged. How did you respond? Did you feel like your worth was diminished because others didn't recognize you? This is where Stoicism provides a different lens. Instead of focusing on external recognition, we can focus on our internal value and the satisfaction that comes from doing things for the right reasons. When we live according to our values, when we show up with integrity and honesty, regardless of whether anyone notices, we are fulfilling our purpose. This kind of self-validation is what Stoicism encourages us to practice. The Stoic concept of amor fati, the love of fate, can be applied here. Amor fati teaches us to embrace everything that happens to us, including moments of feeling unappreciated, as opportunities for growth and wisdom. Even when others fail to acknowledge us, we accept that this is part of life's journey and doesn't diminish our worth. Another Stoic principle is the dichotomy of control, which helps us understand that we can't control how others perceive us or whether they acknowledge our efforts. But we can control our actions and how we respond. When we focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our character, we stop relying on external validation and instead build a sense of self-worth from within. How can you apply this Stoic principle when you're feeling unappreciated? The next time you feel overlooked, take a moment to ask yourself, am I doing this for recognition? Or am I doing it because it aligns with my values and purpose? Shift the focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. For example, if you're working hard on a project at work and you feel overlooked, instead of seeking praise, ask yourself, am I proud of the work I'm doing? Am I living up to my own standards of excellence? By shifting your focus from needing recognition to simply acting in alignment with your values, you will find contentment, regardless of whether others notice your efforts. There was a time when I felt unappreciated for the work I was doing, and I found myself becoming frustrated when my efforts weren't acknowledged. But when I remembered the Stoic idea of finding satisfaction in my own actions, I began to realize that my worth wasn't tied to external recognition. Instead, I shifted my focus to doing my best, regardless of who noticed. That shift in perspective gave me a sense of peace and fulfillment, and I realized that my true worth came from my actions, not from the applause of others. Now, think about a situation in your life where you felt unappreciated. How can you shift your focus from seeking recognition to living according to your values? Reflect on how you can find contentment in your actions and in your worth, rather than depending on others for validation. In today's world, it's easy to tie our sense of worth to external recognition, praise from others, acknowledgement at work, or validation in our relationships. Feeling unappreciated can feel like a personal affront, making us question our value and purpose. However, Stoicism offers a different perspective. Instead of seeking external validation, Stoicism teaches us to find our worth from within by focusing on our actions, values, and virtues, rather than the recognition or approval we receive from others. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, be content to seem what you really are. This teaching encourages us to focus on being authentic and true to ourselves, regardless of how others see us. By doing so, we can find peace and contentment without relying on others for validation. The concept of internal validation and contentment with our true selves is central to Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, faced enormous pressure throughout his life. Yet he consistently reminded himself to live according to his own values, not seeking approval from others. In his meditations, he repeatedly emphasized that we cannot control how others perceive us. Instead, we should focus on being the best version of ourselves and take pride in our own actions and virtues, regardless of external recognition. Similarly, Seneca taught that we must not measure our worth by external praise or success. Instead, we should act according to our principles and find fulfillment in doing what is right, not in how others view us. For the Stoics, true contentment comes from within. From living a life of integrity and virtue, not from the applause of the outside world. At the core of Stoicism, our worth is independent of others' opinions. Stoics believe that our value is determined by our character and our actions, not by how others perceive or appreciate us. Being content with who we really are, as Marcus Aurelius advises, means finding fulfillment in our actions and inner virtues rather than seeking recognition from external sources. This Stoic mindset shifts the focus from seeking approval to building a strong inner foundation of character and integrity. When we live according to our principles, we can find peace, even in moments of unappreciation, because our worth is anchored in something far more lasting and meaningful: our own character. Imagine a situation where you feel unappreciated. Perhaps you've worked hard on a project at work, and despite your best efforts, no one acknowledges your contribution. The Stoic approach would be to shift the focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. Instead of dwelling on the lack of recognition, you can ask yourself, am I proud of the work I've done? Did I give my best effort? Am I living up to my own values? When you focus on your internal values and actions, the lack of recognition becomes less painful. You can take satisfaction in knowing that you did the right thing, regardless of whether anyone notices or appreciates it. This shift in perspective allows you to remain grounded in your own self-worth, unaffected by external factors. For example, if you're in a relationship and feel like your efforts go unnoticed. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we contribute rather than seeking validation. By practicing self-respect and giving your best without expecting anything in return, you can find fulfillment in your actions, knowing that your worth isn't dependent on how others respond. By adopting the Stoic approach of focusing on internal validation, we reduce the emotional burden of seeking approval from others. This shift in mindset not only improves our mental well-being, but also fosters emotional resilience. When we stop seeking validation, we protect ourselves from the pain of feeling unappreciated. And instead, we build confidence in our own value. In addition, this practice of self-validation helps us build a stronger sense of purpose and fulfillment as we stop relying on external factors to determine our self-worth. When our value comes from within, we become more resilient to external criticism or lack of recognition, allowing us to live with greater peace and confidence. By practicing Stoic principles of self-worth and internal validation, we free ourselves from the need for external recognition and find true contentment in our own actions and virtues. Our worth is rooted in who we are, not in what others think of us. And this understanding allows us to live with greater peace, confidence, and emotional resilience. Today, we explore the Stoic principle of finding contentment in who we really are. Rather than relying on external recognition, we discussed how feeling unappreciated can lead to frustration. But Stoicism teaches us to shift our focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, be content to see what you really are. This mindset helps us find peace in our actions and character, regardless of whether others notice or appreciate our efforts. So, how can you apply this Stoic principle today? The next time you feel unappreciated, pause and ask yourself, am I proud of the work I've done? Did I act according to my values and principles? Instead of seeking recognition from others, focus on your internal sense of worth. When you do this, you will find that your peace doesn't depend on external validation, but on the integrity and authenticity you bring to each situation. Take a moment to reflect. What areas of your life do you feel unappreciated? How can you shift your focus from seeking approval to finding satisfaction in your own actions and values? What steps can you take today to embrace your worth without waiting for others to acknowledge it? If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Stoic insights. Share in the comments how you've been able to shift your focus from external validation to internal contentment. What Stoic principles do you use to find peace in your own worth? To leave you with a final thought, remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Be content to seem what you really are. True worth comes from within, from how we live and act according to our values. When we find contentment in who we truly are, we no longer rely on the approval of others to feel fulfilled. Stay true to yourself. Live with integrity, and your peace will come from within.